guys. Hey guys, it's Hope. Sorry if I repeat that twice, but stuff. So today I'm actually here alone. I'm not recording with Cece. I'm just recording one shot by myself. This is a septiplier one shot called Comatose. Yeah. So let's start off. Jack. The name struck him with familiarity. Jack, the voice sounded desperate. But all that responded was heard shutting doors, ambulance doors to be exact. It was his name. Jack briefly remembered that split second of pain before hitting his head rather roughly and his body slamming into the ground, crumpling into a heap of a person. Mark. His name also had a familiar ring to it. One that brought joy to Jack when he thought of it. Mark had fallen. These were the only words that he could form in his mind. They were burned there as if a mission or a solid statement. A flash memory crossed his mind again as he remembered looking over from his group of friends, standing in the parking lot where Mark had tripped in the middle of a busy street trying to walk over to them. Jack had sprinted, pulling the man to his feet, only to push him back down at the sight of an oncoming car. A single flash of headlights was all Jack could recall until now. Even now, he was struggling to move. Mark's presence was no longer felt, and it made him panic. He attempted to move his arms, his torso, his eyelids refused to flutter open, and Jack only grew angry with his frustration and confused the situation. How could he be so aware, but also so dead? This was impossible. Where was Mark? Jack wanted Mark. No, he needed Mark. Needed him by his side to comfort him, to tell him it was okay. Where was he when he wanted a hand to hold? Every bump in the road they crossed, Jack felt it. When they rushed him inside the hospital on a gurney, he had felt the weightlessness of withheld above the ground. He felt them rush him into an operation room, and despite the pain of having bones moved back into place and stitches embedded in his skin, he could not open his mouth to shout in pain. He couldn't eat on his own. He couldn't talk. He couldn't cry for Mark in the darkness he surrounded in. Where was Mark? Had he been abandoned? For several days of sitting in the hospital, Jack felt lost. Was Mark just going to leave him there? He needed somebody here. Preferably, the man said. Where was he? Jack wanted to move, to open his eyes, get up, find the man himself, but no matter how badly his want was, no matter how many times his inner voice shouted commands to move, Jack was frozen in place. Mark? Jack wished the words could have come out of his mouth, but instead they came from another foreign person when he clearly didn't expect to be here. It was Aaron, or known on the internet as Yummy Mash. Bob and Wade were muttering behind him, and Jack felt delight. Had they come to see him? We all care about Jack, and we've all brought him flowers and cards. But sitting for a week straight in his room could not be benefiting your health. Mark never responded, but Jack wanted to simply sing for the heavens. Mark had been here the entire time. He had been watching over Jack from day one, sitting here, just waiting to see if he would wake up and move. Jack felt a lot less alone, and he could wish he could reach his hand out to the man. Aaron, maybe it's best if we don't, Bob began, but Wade interrupted the man. Mark, they're going to cut him off soon. They don't think they'll make it out. You need to say your goodbyes. Jack could hear the men shuffling out of the room after his words. In the chair Mark was presumably sitting in, Jack's ride flew across the wall with a loud crack. What do you mean they're going to cut him off? Mark snarled, his voice taut with anger. They can't do that without my consent. Mark, he's been completely unresponsive. They don't know if he's even truly alive anymore. Bob's voice sounded sad, and as if he'd rather be doing anything but delivering the news right now. Bob, I love him. Mark's voice was quiet, and Jack wanted to say he stiffened at the words, or screamed with joy, danced with excitement, yet he could only smile inwardly. Jack has grown on me, more than anyone has before. I'm not letting him go, not at this time. He saved my life, and somehow I'm going to return that goddamned favor. Jack heard The other two men leave, and Mark sat once again, leaving the pair alone. What am I going to do, Jack? How am I supposed to help you? Jack wanted to cry. He wanted to lean over and hug the man. Please don't let me go just yet, Jack thought, wanting to whisper the words desperately. Please hang on just a bit longer. Mark's head snapped up as the pair of nurses came in the room. Only a couple of days after Bob and the others had arrived with grave news. They had come with flowers and laid a balloon. They told Mark they were about to let Jack go. Mark couldn't forget that day. Then all had occurred. He had fallen in the road, rolling his ankle, trying to get to the others in a hurry. Well, maybe just Jack overall. But Bob and Wade were also over there also. He had shouted in surprise, catching Jack's attention, and with lightning speed that Irishman was on his side. He offered him a hand, pulling Mark to his feet, only to shove him back to the ground and off to the side. Mark had felt anger for a split second, only to on why he'd been shoved, and instantly regretted it once he heard the sound of a car flash by his ears. The fumbling sound of a person against metal, and Mark hadn't even wanted to look. His tear-filled eyes did their best to blur what he wanted to simply be a nightmare. Now he stood there in the way of the pair of nurses. His tired eyes were narrowed, his dark hair everywhere out of place. He gritted his teeth and stood with his arms by his side, hands clenched into fists. You're not taking him from me. Not yet, Mark whispered fiercely. The nurses nodded to one another. One ran in the room to get security, and Mark stood by Jack. He grabbed the Irishman's hand and brought it to his lips as a muscular man barged away into the small room. A small nurse behind him. Sir, one of them began. Shut up, nurse! Mark shouted, crouched beside Jack's bed and holding his hand. The security guard barged towards him, shuffling. The nurses at his bedside became too apparent to Mark. He wasn't letting go of Jack yet. Then all went completely silent. Jack's heart monitor was speeding up. Everyone in the room had stopped. Mark looked down at the Irishman, not noticing the tears that he had pooled in his eyes, and found that Jack was also crying. His face twisted with grief, and tears pooled out of his eyes. His lip twitched as trying to say something, and Mark pulled the chair closer to the bed, sitting, keeping a firm hold on Jack's hand. One of the nurses ushered the security guard out, and the other went to call a doctor in the room. Don't leave his side, you're helping him, she told him gently, and she whisked out of the room. Shut up, nurse, Mark said just as softly, staring at Jack's face. I know what I'm doing. He squeezed Jack's hand ever so lightly, bringing it to his lips one more time. Brown eyes met bright blue. So that was the one shot called Comatose. I think it's called Comatose. But yeah, it was a pretty good one. It was heart wrenching. Oh gosh, don't look at that. See you.